Welcome back to continuation of part 3, reading chapter 3 of the book of 528. Just making sure that I'm up here. I'm also live here on TikTok as well. Shout out to everybody that's on TikTok. Thank you all, everybody on YouTube that's here live. I appreciate you all. Just making sure I have everything up. I gotta get this book. Oh, I also need the frequency on, huh? Probably could use that. Now I can put that away. And we can put the book up on this page. There we go. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Shout out to everybody that was just in our previous stream. We did a quick stream for chapter 2. It was a shorter chapter, so it was only like half an hour. But I really want to break up the chapters into individual streams so people can get specific chapter streams. So I think once people start to understand more about what's going in here, they'd like to understand more about specific chapters. So I'm going to be breaking those up as much as I can. Lace, shout out to you. Thank you for being in here. I appreciate you so much being in here. Shout out to everybody who is here on TikTok as well. Morales, I appreciate you coming in here as well. Livester, thank you. Thank you, everybody. This is going to be an interesting chapter. This is going to be an interesting stream, to say the least. I will preface all of this by saying I am merely a messenger. I am not a mathematician. I'm not a professional. I haven't been studying this since 1996. Like the professionals that wrote this chapter, they know much more about this. So if anybody does have questions, please write those down. I'm also going to pull out my notepad here because I've been taking notes on this. And if anybody does have questions, we can ask those questions to Dr. Horowitz following the completion of this series. And this might be one of those chapters that kind of get people. The function of this chapter is to redefine pi, phi, and the golden ratio. Again, I apologize if I'm saying phi wrong. It's either phi or phi. I said phi yesterday. I'm going to say phi today because I looked it up and the majority of what I saw was phi, but there's also a couple that said phi. So if I am saying it wrong, I apologize. I hope I don't frustrate you by doing that. But kind of what we've been doing here on the streams, just to catch everybody up to speed for those who haven't been watching the previous streams, whether those are pre-recorded or during live, just to catch everybody up onto a similar page. We've kind of been reading this dedication at the beginning of the stream, every stream, just to reintroduce what 528 is and what the message of 528 carries and why this book is extremely important. So I'll start with that because that also helps me calm down my anxiety. So the book of 528, Prosperity Key of Love, may be the most important book in history, following the Holy Bible and Aristotle's physics that birthed modern religions and science. The divided worlds of science and religion shall merge from this knowledge of 528, the musical, mathematical frequency of spiritual energy fundamental to space-time. 528 unites every field, illuminating love for the enlightenment of humankind. 528, the universal love constant, manifests miracles from love and makes love miraculous. 528 is responsible for the constant flow of love that heals and sustains people spiritually. The heart of this clear channel of music, 528 Hertz on the universal dial, broadcasts you into existence every nano instant. These revelations compel civilization to build a new foundation in celebration of love that is sourcing, unifying, and guiding all creation. May this 528, key of the House of David, facilitate civilization's salvation through spiritual evolution. So now that people are on a similar page, Molotov, thank you for coming in here. We are going to jump in. I might have just went over it. Nope, never mind. Here we go. So if anybody's interested as to what we're doing here, you don't have to watch this live. We have 3 previous streams that'll help you catch up to speed on what's going on, and you'll be able to watch this stream, and it'll make a little bit more sense. Again, this stream, this chapter is very dense, and I'm going to do my best to explain. If you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them, but I'll also be jotting down notes and questions that I am unable to explain or mathematical concepts that I'm unable to explain, so that we can ask those to Dr. Horowitz when we're able to interview him. Okay, it's a long chapter. All right. Chapter 3, Pi, Phi, and 528 by Vic Scholl and Leonard Horowitz. Vic Scholl is introduced earlier in the book as this mathematician who's been working on this for so long. I think he started this in 1999, probably earlier than that. Okay. We have been taught that there are exactly 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Drop the zero, as is routinely done in Pythagorean math, and you have 528. Wow, the miracle 6 note of the original Solfeggio is reflected in the measured mile. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This chapter celebrates 528 as a universal constant. Surely all numbers are important, but without this love frequency, nothing would exist, since the most famous mathematical constants known to science, pi, phi, and the golden mean, depend heavily on 528. This makes the number 528 a most important frequency, impacting sacred geometry, space-time measurements, and the energetic dynamics of the universe. As you read this chapter and prove to yourself the quintessential importance of 528 by using your calculator to check the presented math, reflect on the fact that this information has remained buried for millennia. Consider the question of why you were never taught that the most famous mathematical constants used in physics depend heavily on the sacred universal constant of love. So, quick disclaimer, I will not be using a calculator. I apologize to anybody watching, or Dr. Horowitz. I'm sorry. If you'd like to follow along with the calculator, please do. This chapter is necessarily complex mathematically. A word of advice is necessary before you begin. The information and calculations presented herein exercise your abstract mind beyond your left brain or your left hemisphere. Your left brain is believed to engage mostly rational thought and linear analyses. See if you can experience the numbers. There's a lot of figures. It cut off halfway through the sentence, and to those of you on YouTube, you can see what I mean by dense. Lots of numbers. So let me catch up where the last sentence was. See if you can experience the numbers and the math shared here through the more abstract view of your right brain, as well as your rational mind or left brain. Using cinema as a metaphor for explaining this, left brain function might be thought of as viewing a 3D movie without the special glasses required to gain the depth of focus. The picture looks fuzzy without the right optics. The right brain, the glasses in this metaphor, is believed to operate more holistically, intuitively, and visually. This is what is necessary in this chapter because this subject engages matrix math or vortex math. This requires you enter the realm of multidimensional physics beyond 2 or 3-dimensional space. For instance, the numbers to the right of decimal points may relay an entirely different concept or dimension than the whole numbers to the left of the decimal points. Relax if you find yourself becoming a bit confused or frustrated with the mathematical analyses presented. Simply realize that you are learning to look at space and time through a multidimensional lens that characterizes matter or objects, such as a Giza pyramid or the universe at large, in terms of its mathematical patterns moving in multiple directions simultaneously. If you really dislike math, you might choose to skip forward to chapter 4. We're still going to go through this. If you enjoy math and are a serious student of the sciences, then this chapter is worth your time to read, carefully confirming the accuracy of the calculations. Credit this contribution mainly to the genius of mathematician Victor Scholl, who specializes in sacred geometry of pyramids and related metaphysics. Vic has produced a major blessing for humanity through his research. His revelations more than legitimize the use of 528 in music and healing. Scholl's pyramid measurements and mathematical analyses show 528 is a number frequency that is central to pyramid geometry, cosmology, and nature's bounty. His determinations, in my opinion, are revolutionary. Vic Scholl explains that the modern mathematical constants, pi and phi, are different from ancient pi and phi. The difference making pi and phi irrational numbers comes from neglecting 528 and the rest of the perfect circle of sound frequencies. Factoring these sacred Solfeggio numbers into simple equations transforms pi and phi into rational numbers without repeating decimals. I'm just going to butt in for a little bit. If anybody remembers, like in middle school, high school, you learned about the numbers that had i's on them, like -4i, the irrational numbers. That's what he's talking about. Schowell's studies shed light on sacred geometry, musical mathematics, and healing water science. The following is an introduction to one of Vic Schowell's masterful monographs proving mathematically that pyramid sacred geometry, cosmology, pi, phi, and the Fibonacci series, found in music and throughout nature, are intimately linked to 528 frequency mathematics and harmonics. Schowell also proved that 396 frequency in the perfect circle of sound is fundamentally related to creative hydrosonics. His analysis of 741, opposing 528 as the devil's tone, is also an extraordinary contribution. In essence, Schowell's revelations compel consideration of musical creationism and cymatics that includes a new theory on physical reality and reactions in space-time. Among these considerations are three revolutionary postulates. Postulate 1, all electrons are spinning musically, vibrating harmonically, as determined by 9 core creative frequencies comprising the perfect circle of sound. Postulate 2, these 9 frequencies of sound determine pi, phi, the Fibonacci series, and all sacred geometrics, including the structure of the universe and the laws of physics. Postulate 3, all piezoelectric oxidative reductive reactions and electromagnetism affecting chemical interreactions rely on the harmonics or dissonance of frequencies within a musical mathematical matrix fundamental to physics and chemistry, all determined by simply 9 perfect circle of sound frequencies. My 528 just butted out of my speaker again. Sorry if that popped up on my mic. I'm going to read postulate 3 again because that is some science words. So maybe I can pause to make it make a little bit more sense. Postulate 3. All piezoelectric oxidative reductive reactions and electromagnetism affecting chemical reactions. Wow, I messed that up. It's the third time. All piezoelectricity, oxidative reductive reactions, and electromagnetism affecting chemical interreactions rely on the harmonics or dissonance of frequencies within a musical mathematical matrix fundamental to physics and chemistry, all determined by simply 9 perfect circle of sound frequencies. Moving on. How did Schowell come to these postulates and astonishing revelations? I just don't know how it comes to me, he wrote. It must be that I am so subconsciously tuned in to the synchronous harmonics of the ancient timelines that it just happens. If you are compelled by your left brain, requiring solid evidence to be persuaded about anything important, you will relish Schowell's contributions. His monographs on this subject, freely downloadable in PDF files from love528.com, are superb, especially his latest Teotihuacan. I'm not gonna be able to say Teotihuacan Universal Harmonic Master Code. I'm gonna say that website again. That's love528.com. You can get all of the monographs are freely downloadable from there if you are looking for solid evidence of what I'm reading. Again, all of those are freely downloadable in PDF version on love528.com, and that's Victor Schowell. Excuse me. In his series of mathematical analyses, he has identified the fundamental mathematical and geometric measurements of the Egyptian pyramids, reflecting the tetrahedron structure of water. His determinations of mathematical constants provide greater truth to set humanity free from many misconceptions, especially in the world of science. Schowell's discoveries help confirm the existence of scaling based on the original Solfeggio and the ancient mathematical constants pi and phi. This knowledge increases understanding of how the mathematical matrix of the universe and the standing gravitational wave, advanced by Harmut Miller, harmonically relates to the medium and mechanism for creation, a creative Solfeggio carrier wave, so to speak, is influencing and even sustaining everything. Here are the broadcasting channels through which the source of the universe vibrates everything into existence. This main carrier wave and creative wave set, Mr. Scholl's research proves, features 528. It is well known that light bends. Oh, this is, I'm reading a figure. This is figure 6 to anybody on YouTube. This is what I'm reading. To those of you on TikTok, this figure is about the bending of light through a crystal pyramid. It is well known that light bends as it moves through a glass or quartz crystal. Diagrammed above is white light bending and transforming into a rainbow of colors. Greenish yellow is in the center of the rainbow. This is 528 Hertz frequency of light. The same thing happens as light moves through water, forming real natural rainbows. The fact is, water molecules are shaped like tiny pyramids, little tetrahedrons. Many water molecules together act like a larger crystal because water is a liquid crystal superconductor of light and sound. Thus, with the universe filled with water, it stands to reason that sound and light frequencies traveling through this water matrix, differentiated by the part of the matrix through which this energy is transmitting, gives rise to unique outcomes. Holographic fractal manifestations sourcing from sound and water theoretically explain physical reality and most simply, I shouldn't have added the and. I'm going to read that again. Holographic fractal manifestations sourcing from sound and water theoretically explain physical reality most simply and reasonably. And he cites his source here, which is from NASA. This is another figure talking about different waves of light, and this is the spectrum that we see. Just kind of going through it for the people here on YouTube. Ironically, 528 being in the middle right here. And this goes more into the structure of water and also chlorophyll as well. As you can see, this is the Seal of Solomon, the Star of David. Okay, moving on. If love is the universal healer, it makes sense that it would be a spiritual energy carried universally on a special broadcasting channel or wave frequency. This is just like your radio receiver that uses digital electromagnetic technology to tune into a clear channel. 528 Hertz appears to carry a very special and very powerful signal for universal construction and reconstruction. This good vibration, identified as the miracle frequency at the heart of the ancient Solfeggio, is likewise at the heart of sound and light spectrums. Many investigators, including esteemed scientists, state 528 Hertz has been used to restore damaged DNA as a function of its unique and powerful vibration. It does this, theoretically, through cymatics or creative hydrosonics. So if you are still with me, take a tiny little tea break. I appreciate everybody that is here and that is reading, if you're following along. If anybody has an opinion on me stopping on the figures that are shown, for those of you on YouTube, please let me know in the comments. I can spend some more time on the figures. I also, I'm hoping other people buy this book too. So if you'd like to look at the features or the figures a little bit more in depth, please go purchase the book. It's only $10 on Amazon. And again, there's the free PDF files that he was talking about on 528love.com. I believe that was, let me go back and double check. Love528.com. I'm glad I checked. Love528.com. You can find these figures. Okay, and also I wanted to just say this before we get into the really deep math stuff. I'm going to do my best not to read all of the numbers just because there's parentheses and there's going to be so many numbers. But I'll do my best to find, to continue with kind of the flow of the storyline of the chapter and do my best to explain what's going on in my own terms. If there's any questions, please leave comments or write them down and we can get them answered in a few days. Okay. This is the background on pi. Pi, or If you remember in math, the pi symbol, I'm going to do that on TikTok, the pi symbol looks like that. Pi is one of the most important mathematical constants. It represents the ratio of any circle's circumference to its diameter in Euclidean geometry. This is the same as the ratio of a circle's area to the square of its radius. Many formulae from mathematics, science, and engineering involve pi. The mathematical constant pi is a real number that arises naturally in mathematics. Unlike physical constants, mathematical constants are defined independently of physical measurement. In other words, in math, the creator's language, there are physical and metaphysical constants, or laws that govern everything, including nature's structure, function, and balance. Modern pi is approximately 3.14159. It is thus promoted as an irrational number, which means that it cannot be expressed as a fraction m over n, where m and n are integers. Consequently, its decimal representation never ends or repeats. It is furthermore a transcendental number, which means there is no finite sequence of algebraic operations on integers that could ever produce it. A quick pause here to look at the cymoglyph. This is 528 resonating in water. Continuing. Throughout the history of mathematics, Wikipedia reports, much effort has been made to determine pi more accurately and understand its nature. Fascination with the number has been even carried over into culture at large. This fascination with the accuracy of pi is the subject of Vic Scholl's contribution. Background on sacred geometry, phi, and the golden ratio. This is the next part of the passage, kind of building into the chapter. The golden ratio, as known as the divine proportion, golden mean, or golden section, is a number often encountered when taking the ratios of distances in simple geometric figures, such as a pentagon, pentagram, decagon, and dodecahedron. The golden ratio is also found in the pyramids of Giza and the Parthenon at Athens. Pi and phi are important in trigonometry. For example, if you divide a 360-degree circle into 5 sections of 72 degrees each, you will get a 5-point pentagon whose dimensions are all based on phi relationships. Accordingly, phi, pi, and 5, a Fibonacci number, are related through trigonometry. Dale Lohr, an expert in this field of analysis, contributed the following equation defining the relationship between phi, pi, and 5 as follows. Pi equals 5, arcos, in parentheses, 0.5 phi. Note that the angle of 1/2 of phi, or 0.5 phi, is 36 degrees, of which there are 10 in a circle, or 5 in pi radians. A related cymoglyph is shown in figure 9. Show that again. It's right here. A related cymoglyph is shown in figure 9. This was produced by John Stuart Reid, a pioneer in acoustic research and cymatic measurements. Reid tested 528 Hertz frequency transmission through water and filmed this result. Consistent with Lohr's contributions, Reid showed 528 Hertz frequency uniquely produced a 360-degree circle containing 36 nodes, each perfectly 10 degrees. So if we take a look at that again for YouTube. It's pretty cool. This evidences the angle of 0.5 phi is formed from 528 Hertz, and consequently the structure of circles depends on the mathematical signature or creative energy of 528. On to the next passage, 528 in cosmic design. The cymoglyph in figure 9 graphs the amazing result of 528 Hertz frequency resonating water to deliver a message of cosmic conception, universal design, and divine love. Central to the cymoglyph is a black hole in the middle of a 69 structure. Physicists report that the universe emerges from a black hole. The central 69 yin-yang symbol bears resemblance to the structure shown in Figure 29, the double toroid structure of the universe graphed by a physicist Nassim Haramein and mathematician Marco Rodin. Their independent determinations evidence the double donut shape of the universe, and their works are widely accepted following peer review. Rodin's and Haramein's works are further described in Chapter 9. The esoteric contents for the 69 central image appears to be 3 sets of lips, or labia, giving birth to the resonant structures of the 36-pointed star. This reflects the entire vibrating circle of creation. As mentioned at the start of this chapter, an intriguing virtue of 528 is that it is a decimal variant of the 5,280-foot mile that is founded on the sacred geometry of the circle, and thus intimately linked with the pi and phi constants. In analyzing pyramid geometry as it relates to pi and phi, Scholl reported, "Now we know that the pyramid works perfectly in feet." He also concluded that this finding of the 528 mile relationship gives it priority above 396 in this context of considering the relative importance of the Solfeggio frequencies to sacred geometry and mathematical constants. The 396 Scholl refers to here is the first note, called ut, of the original Solfeggio musical scale. By definition, it is related to electromagnetism and all of the notes in the musical scale. This frequency, according to Webster's dictionary, also represents the entire spectrum of human emotions, from grief to joy, as shown in Chapter 5, Table 5. Excuse me again. Scholl continued summarizing his amazing analysis of 528 and its relative importance in cosmic design as compared with 396, beginning with the sign of the tetrahedral latitude determined by Richard C. Hoagland, an expert in space-time physics, that the sign of... See, this is where it gets a little confusing because they're using this with figures. So I believe... See where he's getting this number. Yeah, and they go through all of this. You know what? We're just going to read it. The sign 19.47122061 equals 0.3 repeating. The tetrahedron, by the way, is the structure of water. This is an author's note. It should also be noted that whenever you see whole numbers or repeating numbers or patterns of numbers to the right of the decimal point, such as this number, 0.33333 to infinity, you are dealing with a rational number as opposed to an irrational number. This difference is very important and will be addressed again in greater detail in Chapter 9 while referencing Ernest McLean's research and the urgent problem concerning 528 called the Pythagorean comma. The formula using the 19.47122061 to get the value of pi is of great consequence, Scholl reported. The major clue I got was that 528 divided by 6 equals 88, which is the Mercury sidereal. The Mercury sidereal is a measurement of the movement of Mercury in relation to the Sun. And in the entire 11, 22, 33, 45, 55, 66, 77 system, as with 11 times 8, with highest value to 99 for 4D hypercube math, only 528 does this above with Mercury 88. That is, that fitting into this system. Oh, I'm sorry if that was loud. The 528 divided by 6 equals 88 took me to pyramid height 481, which is the planetary sinoid value. 481 times 88 equals... Hold on. I think the planetary sinoid gets brought up again. You can see how this is dense. So I guess you're taking this equals x dot. You know what? I'm going to get out my calculator for this one. just to, because I don't know why that. Oh, I see what they're doing. Okay, so this number, 481 times 88, is 42,328. But what they're doing is they're symbolizing this decimal to show, and I'm going to read this again, the author's note. It should be noted that whenever you see whole numbers or repeating numbers or patterns of numbers to the right of the decimal point, such as this number, 42.328, you are dealing with a rational number as opposed to an irrational number. This difference is very important. So this is still a rational number. I guess I am confused on why they're putting the decimal there, so that's something I can put. Explain deeper on decimal point placement in chapter 3. I'm not necessarily understanding why that decimal point is there, but I'm understanding how it got there. I understand how, not necessarily why. Again, I'm not a mathematician. I'm a musician. Kind of a mathematician that way, but just a messenger. Then X, so this number divided by Mars, Jupiter's signoid, 816.5 equals 51.840 approximately. So this would be like 51,840. Or again, wherever they're using these decimals. And the slope of the Great Giza Pyramid is this number, 51.8427. So quickly showing that 528, when multiplied by the planetary signoid cycle, being kind of like a constant, and then divided by the Mars-Jupiter signoid, which I'm not necessarily sure what the exact importance of this specific signoid is. Maybe because we're in between Mars and... No, that's not even true. I'm gonna write that down too. Explain importance of Mars-Jupiter signoid. So, but basically, just by doing the simple math, you're getting to the slope of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and this is going to continue with the amount of like, how is that there? 528 divided by 396 equals 1.3333, and that works on various Solfeggio frequencies. The slope of this second pyramid at Giza is supposed to be just over 53 degrees. Arctangent 1.3 to the 13th, I think, equals 53.13 degrees. Just taking the arctangent, so the inverse tangent of 1.3, which has like 12 threes. Now, look at what the sine and cosine are with that angle, 0.8 and 0.6. 528 is a harmonic codex of the Solfeggio tones 852 and 285. 528 divided by 336, the high physics symmetry value, equals a pi divided by 2. So I'm guessing that's 3.14 or whatever the new pi. Oh, this is ancient pi. Ancient pi divided by 2. 528 times the root square of 2, which is 1.141414, equals 746.6666, which flows through the polytope chart. But when you divide 528 by the ancient square of 2, or 1.4142857, which is repeating, you get 373.333. So the ancient square root of 2 is actually a repeating number of 1.42857. But there's just so many synchronicities that they're showing here with 528. But it's only going to dive deeper here. So I hope you're following along with me. I understand that this is very dense math. I'm doing my best to read it, and not only just to read it, and doing my best to explain it as well. From here, it goes nuts and spirals through the polytope values and all Mayan and Egyptian numbers. I'll give you one example, Scholl continued. The Sakara pyramid height equals 14, and 14 divided by 11 equals the arctangent slope of the Pyramid of Giza. 14 equals 10 phi times E, and E is also a mathematical equivalent or constant. Then divided by pi gives you E equals 2.71828. And then the number that we got previously on the last page, which was here, divided by 14 equals 26.666. And that is the fundamental node of the tetrahedral and Egyptian system. Any decimal variation of 1,296 works. Similarly, I use the chemi, thusly, it's like speed reading numbers. How do you do that? 12,960,000 by 26.6666, which is the number, the fundamental node of the tetrahedral and Egyptian system. And that equals 486,000, which adds up to 9. Or wait. 486 equals 9 times 54. And 54 is pentagonal. And 54... 54 and 378 times, wow, you can see just that these guys dove into it with math. Let me pull up my calculator again here, just to make sure I'm following along. Times 0.14257. Okay, so basically what they're saying is that this number times the original square root of 2, which is up here. Sorry. Yeah, here. Is 54 as well. Right here. Is also 54. So that's going back to the bringing 2 into the equation. Editor's note, the Mayan long count, abbreviated MLC below, that equals 1,872,000, is featured in Scholl's Freemason Code deciphered from Grand Masonic Lodge architecture into Phi and Pi, available online. So if anybody's interested in this really deep math stuff, check out Victor Scholl. It sounds like he really knows what's going on. Now they're using these numbers, dividing it by a similar number that we were using earlier. That is the fundamental node of the tetrahedral and Egyptian system. Ends up becoming the Dresden Codex. I don't know what the Dresden Codex is. Shout out to all the mathematicians. Ooh. Next, look at the above equation. So maybe this. 528 times 1.4141414, which was brought up here. The square root of 2, and then this is the ancient square root of 2. Okay, so this is the square root of 2. This is the ancient square root of 2. Okay, so if you take 528 divided by the square root of 2, you get 746.6666, which we've been seeing a lot already. I forget where that comes from. 528 does the same magic in 187,200 and 1,296,000. The other solfeggio frequencies don't do this, except 396, which does almost as much as 528 totally, and really is equally important. Figure 10 shows some research looking at Masonic values. I have found in a Masonic temple the 528 divided by the 16-pointed star equals 33. 33 is a very important number. 396 does not compute like this divisibly with 16, but functions in a multiplicative way, sense dependent on 528. It functions in a multiplicative sense dependent on 528. So we take 16 times 396, you get 6336, and then divide 6336 by 528, you get 12. That is 12 times 528 is 6336, and you know what 12 does when squared. 12 is 144, and this relates to the 144,000 and the Baktun. Author's note, 1 Baktun, it must be like an old, like an ancient way of counting or something. What 1 Baktun is equivalent to 144,000 days in the Mayan calendar. Also, the 144,000 number is referenced in the book of Revelation 14:1 as those who are sealed with the love of God and the Lamb. These people sing a new song in the end times in order to prompt the Messianic age, 1,000 years of world peace. The six solfeggio note definitions in Table 5 regard this prophesized event. So if you take this number of 1,872,000 and divide it by 6336, which is how we get 528 by 12 and also 396 by 16, this equals 295 with 4545 kind of continually repeating, or approximately. Because I was thinking, they said earlier if there's numbers over here, they're not considered irrational. Now use the constant from the polytope study, 2.4545. This is from the polytope earlier. So this number divided by the polytope study number equals 120.3703703,703. And that is exactly 100 times the Khufu constant, that 195 divided by 162 is 1.203,703,703. The Khufu being the pyramid. So they're relating a lot of these numbers into pyramid technology, pyramid mathematics, and how the pyramids were constructed. The above demonstrates Victor Scholl's genius and excitement in the discovery of the pyramid geometry and cosmology linked to 528 musical mathematics, including the circle and arc further discussed in Chapter 9 and the appendix. So that whole little passage was just showing kind of the resonance and similarities, the harm. It just shows how integral 528 is in the calculation of all of this, and how they're even basing it off of ancient pi compared to modern pi, and really highly recommend any mathematicians to dive into this deeper and to maybe take it a step further, because they've really set the ground, but it really looks like there is a lot more to go here. Okay, on to the next passage here. I appreciate anybody who's still with me. I know this is a lot of math talk, but it's important math talk, as this is mathematical proof of 528's importance. So now we're going to move in the next passage. This is, 528 turned off. It's like doesn't resonate on my speakers for a second. Okay. Giza, pyramid math, and sacred geometry. Now, for the purpose of this study, Vic analyzed the Sakara and Giza pyramids that are geometrically very similar. The pharaoh Khufu desired to solidify the ancient sacred geometry in the pyramid complexes built. Thus, he reproduced the geometry of Giza to establish the dimensions of the Sakara pyramid. Internet sites cite the dimensions of the Giza pyramid as follows. So for those of you on YouTube, this is the pyramid dimensions. Couple cool figures. Oh, so here, this is where we get into the Saturn Sinoid. This is going to be fun. So this is the basic dimensions for the Sakara pyramid. Yep. So pay attention to these numbers. I think he's going to be deconstructing these numbers now. Note, using 481 as the height and slope would be 51.8375. This is close enough to 51.84 for this analysis. Vic used 481 as the calculative constant, and regardless if he used 481.090909 or not, 481 equals 13 times 73 times 37, wherein the 37 has to do with the planetary sinoids of Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Earth cycles. This relates to the Dresden Codex, wherein 702 divided by 481 pyramid height equals x. Then x times 37 equals 54, reflecting simple math harmonics. Everybody ready? Here we go. Just a quick shout out to all of you that are here. Thank you all so much for being here. TikTok, YouTube. So much gratitude. So much gratitude. Thank you for being here. Lesson 1. Ancient pi is not 3.14159. Ancient pi is not 3.1459, but 3.142857 to infinity, Vic Scholl instructs. He encourages you to get a calculator and take your time to follow this slowly, step by step, calculation by calculation. You will see that modern pi is significantly different from ancient pi. This seemingly small difference has substantially huge implications for civilization and the spiritual renaissance. This regards the Pythagorean comma, or Pythagorean crisis, detailed by Ernest G. McLean in Chapter 9. This helps explain why modern man is simply out of sync with the universe or nature. The problem stems from denying ourselves the accurate math, music, or creative language, so we are creating everything in dissonance versus 528 harmony with love. This truth holds the capacity to set humanity free. Analyzing it will help you open your heart-mind and your intuitive channel through which more revelation and inspiration will come to you. This is what many people are experiencing by playing with these numbers. In a sense, you can commune with the master matrix of creation, which is powerfully energized and energizing. Instead, institutionalized Babylon accepts false math and false precepts that can't phase lock into the system of musical math established by the Creator. For additional reinforcement and benefit, Mr. Scholl recommends you draw a pyramid dimensionally similar to ancient pyramids as shown in Figure 11, to visualize the sacred geometry created by this math. Divide the baseline into two sections of ancient pi to test the prospect that ancient pi is truly 22 divided by 7. You can see from his graphic and yours that the pyramid base is 2a pi by 2a pi, and the height is 4 pi. Next, using a calculator, divide 22 by 7 and write down what you see digitally on your display. Unfortunately, I don't have a great calculator. I have the Apple calculator, so I don't think I'm going to see as many decimal points. But I can verify that there is a pattern, repeating pattern. Valrel, shout out to you for being in here. Thank you for being in here. Mariah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm doing my best to get through this math. I don't think you... Ooh, I can maybe... Hold on, everybody. You can't even see my calculator. So let me, is it going to let me show my calculator? I don't think it's going to let me show my calculator. That's unfortunate. Sorry, everybody. I'd really, really encourage you to follow along if you do feel so inspired to do so. Along with anybody on YouTube, you can see these mathematical calculations on screen. Please check them out if you want to double check their validity. So when you do 22 divided by 7, which I wish I could show you on my calculator, you get this, which is 3.142857, 142857, 142857, continuing to infinity. Now double what you see and write it down as written here. So it may help to put one row directly below the other. So basically you're just doubling that number. So you have the 3.142857 to infinity, and under that you have 6.285714, 285,714, 285,714 to infinity. Look carefully at both rows of numbers. Do you see the pattern? The fractional pattern that repeats to infinity shifts 2 places with every doubling. This is best noted with calculators that cipher to 18 places. In other words, the 14 in 0.142857 shifts positions to the end of the repeating pattern to become 0.285714. It does not do this with the modern alleged pi equivalent. Try it again to make sure. Double 6.285714. You get 12.571428, 571,428, 571,428 to infinity. Put this number directly below the other numbers, and you get all of those numbers going on till infinity. If you look carefully in them, you might also see Solfeggio numbers, but that gets brought up later. Do you see what is happening or what is emerging? Repeating numbers form patterns, a developing mathematical and musical matrix. This math indicates how the parallel universes work, parallel realities or parallel levels, including, I put in work there, I'm just going to restart that sentence, sorry. This math indicates how the parallel universes, parallel realities, or parallel levels, including the spiritual realms in which angels traveled, are layered, so to speak, next to our layer or level. This is why Jesus held, "The kingdom of heaven is near. It is actually right next to you right now." On to the next passage. So for anybody tuning in, that last passage mathematically proved that the current pi that we're using in our mathematical system is not correct. Lesson 2. Phantom of the Opera, the music of the light, and hidden numbers. I previously mentioned the musical Phantom of the Opera and the music of the night. It relays the story of the angel of darkness, that is, Lucifer, the fallen angel of light and music. The phantom captures the heart of Christina, metaphorically representing the Christ energy, or Christianity. The demon, jealous of the opera company controlling Christina, causes a crystal chandelier to fall on the audience and destroy the opera company. In the end, Christina renders the demon love and is released to marry her hero. Again, Haydn's 96th classic is called the Miracle Symphony, where 9 plus 6 equals 15 and 1 plus 5 equals 6, or Miracle 6. Modern propaganda alleges this classical composition was named from the sudden, inexplicable, nearly disastrous detachment of a huge crystal chandelier that fell from the ceiling of the concert hall during Haydn's opening performance. Again, that's of Haydn's 96th Symphony. Miraculously, no one was harmed. No doubt Gaston Leroux, author of Phantom of the Opera, borrowed this apparent myth. Haydn, it seems, composed and named his 96th Symphony honoring the third miracle tone of the original Solfeggio musical scale. In the book of Revelation, the apocalypse refers to similar end times battle resolving in a musical marriage between God's faithful, the bride of Christ, who is finally wed to the Messiah for all eternity. In Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse, we advanced a musical code hidden in the verse numbers in Numbers 7, 12 through 83. That applies the ancient priesthood's alchemical Pythagorean math. The code reveals the music of the light, the original Solfeggio scale by which the hymn to St. John the Baptist was sung. Reputedly the most spiritually uplifting hymn of all time, it is composed of only 6 notes, each defined in Webster's dictionary as part of a new song sung during a global concert in Revelation 14:1, involving 144,000 spiritually pure persons who are ransomed by God for this apocalyptic marriage. As Scholl points out above, the first and third solfeggio notes, 396 and 528, are both connected musically, mathematically, to this 144,000 number. These are the 6 solfeggio tones are listed as follows. So Ut is 396, Re, you might also recognize Ut as Do. Ut is 396, Re is 417, Mi is 528, Fa is 639, So is 741, and La is 852. I later added the following 3 unnamed notes to this list to complete the perfect circle of sound. These included 963, 174, and 285. You should note that these numbers each resolve into 3, 6, or 9 when the Pythagorean system is used. These 2 central notes, Mi and Fa, identify the miracle family, 528 and 639. Moving on to the next passage. Hope everybody's still with me. Thank you all for being here. I should probably get some water instead of tea. Okay. Next passage. The spiritual set of numbers. ancient pi, and the missing 3s, 6s, and 9s. Notice that the numbers comprising the fraction of true ancient pi are missing the 3s, 6s, and 9s. From conclusions I drew based on the simple mathematical infinity pattern shown in Figure 30, pioneered by Marco Rodin, the 3s, 6s, and 9s represent a special set of numbers that provide a portal to the spiritual domain or spiritual levels of reality. These whole numbers may reflect the animating principle of the universe, the math or music of spirit, the Holy Spirit that hovered over the face of the water at the beginning of time, as part of the triune God. The repeating fraction numbers, missing the 3s, 6s, or 9s, represent a fraction of the whole, or pieces of the totality manifesting physical reality. In other words, spirit and matter are separated, but confluent. My theory is this separation of divine spirit and human matter is mathematically, musically administered according to these simple patterns. The period or decimal point dividing whole numbers from fractions reflects the dividing point between matter and spirit, or physical reality and spiritual reality. This theory extends to time as well as space and matter. The period may denote a time warp separating past and future instead of being in the now of spiritual physical totality or existentially enlightened experiences. Finally, the matrix pattern created by Scholl's doubling the ancient pi fraction numbers, as Marco Rodin also shows, reveals the Solfeggio frequencies in patterned positions within the matrix, minus the 396 central triad of numbers. This is interesting because when instruments are tuned to 396, the music feels angelic or more spiritual. Interesting, I've never done 396 music. Notice in the matrix below, the 528 shifts up and to the right, while 741 shifts in the opposite direction, down and to the left. This is consistent with the yin and yang and the devil's tone, designated in musicology as the dissonant combination of 528 and 741. You can see how this is happening throughout the scale, and this is the continuation of pi. Really brought out. You can see it always up to the right, down to the left, up to the right, down to the left, if that makes sense. Finally, if you add up each fraction using the Pythagorean method, you get 1 plus 4 plus 2 plus 8 plus 5 plus 7 equals 27, where 2 plus 7 equals 9, which is completion. So in each doubling of pi, you get 3 or 6 alternating in the whole number place and 9 in the fractional location. All the above offers solid mathematical proofs that this set of 3s, 6s, and 9s provides a special quality like a spiritual signature or portal through which metaphysical energy manifests miraculously into physical reality. Little next in the passage. Lesson 3. Phi Cosmology, Pyramid Geometry, and the Creator's Music. Take Scholl's original decimal sequence, 0.142857, and inverse it, 758241 decimal, or period. Then extrapolate it out to infinity by entering the decimal sequence into the calculator at least 3 times. It stops showing on the display, but is in the memory. So you're just entering that a few times into your calculator. But as you do that, you can see the second solfeggio tone, re, or resonance, 417 Hertz, indicative of its resonating, indicative of it resonating eternally. Interesting enough, 417 is a harmonic of 528 love, even though it is in the 741 central triad and not in the 528 central triad of the perfect circle of sound. Here you can see other patterns emerge. For instance, the pattern that this pair, 417 and 582, make as 2 adjacent sets of family number groups in this line of numbers is interesting. Move the 7 2 places to the left to become solfeggio 741 when read from left to right. Move the 5 2 places to the right to yield 528 when read backwards from right to left. This appears to be a reversal, or again, an opposite polarity between the two solfeggio notes that form the devil's tone. Next passage is a greater truth revealed. Whoa. Now, a great truth is revealed about Phi. In all the ancient Egyptian pyramids, and their math becomes apparent in a flash. If you multiply the proven legitimate pi fraction, 0.142857, times the cosmological constant associated with the galactic and solar cycles, known as the Saturn synod, which is 378, you get closer to 528 you get closer to 54 as you approach infinity. Try it. The more you extrapolate the numbers, getting closer and closer to infinity, the closer it gets to 54. So if you multiply this times the Saturn synod, which you're multiplying the right side of the decimal, the fraction part of pi, times the Saturn synod, you get 54. Why is this important? Because the sine of 54 degrees is 1/2 of Phi. Here, Vic's genius delivers to the max. He harmonically codexed the decimal sequence by shifting the first digit in line to the back of the line and multiplied that number by the Saturn synod. So instead of having 0.142857, now it's 0.428571 multiplied by the Saturn synod. And that equals 162. Eureka! 162 is 100 times ancient Phi, which is 1.62. Try this with all of the sequences. Shift the first digit in line to the back of the line, and then multiply that number times the Saturn synod. So any way that you can harmonically codex this number multiplied by the Saturn synod. With this simple experiment, you have just proven the entire Egyptian pyramid math, calendar geometry, is based on Saturn and Mars cosmologies, with Saturn being predominant. Saturn is like the lead bass player or percussionist, maintaining the rhythm of the spiraling cosmos. The bass clef in music reflects this spiraling center. The Greeks and Romans called Saturn Kronos. Chronometer in Greek means measure. So Shoal proves the cosmos is laid out perfectly, mathematically, harmoniously, like a musical composition of divine synchrony. Similarly, he irrefutably proves 528 is a central number of operating in the musical mathematical master matrix underlying the sacred pyramid geometrics established by Phi. On the next passage. Lesson 4. Importance of the ancient solfeggio. According to Vic Shoal's mathematical analyses and growing international consensus of math experts, the original solfeggio frequencies work like magic in the Saturnian cosmologies. The word magic sources from the ancient Melchizedek priesthood called the Magi, who held this knowledge sacred and secret. Returning to his earlier analysis of the Sakara pyramid and Phi, Vic wrote that the number 7 within the fraction of pi, 22 divided by 7, represents the 7 dots of the ancient cylinder seals, and steel representing planet Earth, as advanced and discussed by Zachariah Sitchin. The seals relate to the 7 major chakras, tuning your body spiritually and musically. So for this lesson, Vic recommends you take the real ancient pi, 3.142857, and multiply it times the Saturn synod, which is 378. This yields 1,188. Look at that number, he consoles. Encouraging your intuition, 11 times 8 equals 88, is intriguing. In the appendix section, Musicians 528 discussion, I relay the research of Zion Estes and Michael Walton discovering a musical portal at 88.8 Hertz that is experientially profound. I'm just going to cut in here really quick. I put this frequency in my music, and what he's saying here is, it holds true. It when it interacts with 528, it creates a new mathematical integer that creates basically a vibrational portal inside of the music because of the frequencies interacting. And he'll discuss it a little bit more, but I use this, so this is very profound. He says it here. More musically profound. If you take the original solfeggio frequencies and apply the aforementioned information from this chapter, you prove pi, phi, the Fibonacci series, and more are all based on solfeggio musical matrix, on the solfeggio musical matrix. Convince yourself as follows. Divide the first note of the original solfeggio, ut, which is 396, by 11,188. And you will get the exact sign of the molecular structure of water, the tetrahedron, which is 0.33333 7 times, which is the sign of the exact tetrahedral. According to Webster's dictionary, the definition of ut says, or ut, it's like a hoot, Canadian. It says this single tone contains all other musical notes and represents the entire gamut of human experience and emotion from grief to joy. Remember, this too is related to 528. As mentioned above, since 528 divided by 396 is 1.3333, and the slope of the second pyramid at Giza has an arctangent of 1.33333, equal to 53.13 degrees. Fick additionally noted that the Sakara pyramid measurements are noteworthy. The pyramid measures 22 meters square at its base and 14 meters high. Half those measures and you get the values 11 and 7, or craps in casino gambling. But considering 528, if you divide 528 by this pyramid base length of 22, you get exactly 24, as in 24 hours in a day. And remember, 2 plus 4 equals 6, just like Miracle 6. 528 divided by 22 equals 24 proves that pyramid cosmology is not only related to 528, but also to tracking time. Recall that 22 divided by 7 days a week is ancient pi, or 3.142857143. This is related to 22 divided by 19.5 equals x. The ancients used 19.5 as their tetrahedral constant. By squaring x, you get the tangent of 51.84 degrees. If you square x again, you get the ancient phi number 1.62. So now mathematicians, and you too, see more clearly how the original solfeggio musical scale, including 528 Hertz, pi, and phi, are intimately connected to the liquid crystal tetrahedral structure of water, the circle, the arc, and every other sacred geometric form. This chapter just keeps getting deeper. I'm just going to keep going. Just keep getting deeper here. This is lesson 5 of chapter 3. Final proofs regarding the legitimacy of 528 and the original solfeggio musical scale. When you read Scholl's works, you have to understand his use of the ancient system of no decimals, or what he calls decimal variations in numeric sets or sequences. For example, 0.333 goes into 3. Hold on. You have to understand his ancient use of the ancient system of no decimals, or what he calls decimal variations in numeric sets or sequences. I think this is something I'm really going to need clarification on, is how they figure out decimals between. So what page is this? 79? Explain deeper on decimal variations on page 79. I hope some people are keeping up with me here. I think I'm just going to skip over this little part about the 0.3333 going into 3.3333 into 33.333, and then 13 times 333 somehow gets to the Jupiter sidereal. So I'm going to need clarification on that. That's something I'm going to ask Dr. Horowitz about. But Dr. Scholl has kind of created this, not created, but he's stumbled back upon to this ancient system of no decimals, So that's definitely something I'm going to need clarification on. Because he found the ancient Egyptian cosmology constant is 195 divided by 162, or 1.95 divided by 1.62, 1.62 again being phi. He uses the 1.95 form of decimal placement often, which he named the Khufu constant. In any case, he wrote, to get the ancient solfeggio music of the spheres, you can use tetrahedral 19.47122.061, which was found in that thing I was talking about, the Jupiter sidereal. You can use the tetrahedral 19 number, but then you get 10 pi. So he used 1.947. He basically shifted the decimal place over 1. So instead of 19, it was 1.947122061. Instead, because he declared, that form created virtually magical pathways into the tangents and cosines and sines of angles in derivations. Derivations. It's derivations. The difference of exact pi and the actual value achieved is 0.000354308, to which he chides, if this is not close enough, then this will not work for you. It works for me. Oh, okay. So the actual difference of exact pi to the actual value achieved when you do the before mentioned equation using the Khufu constant, you get to within a 0.0004 rounded. Close enough. He derives this minuscule musical difference ultimately in resonance harmonics by taking the la tone of the solfeggio 852 and dividing it by the mi tone 528 as shown here. Solfeggio 852 divided by 528 equals 1.61363636, and then multiplied by the number that we were previously using, the Khufu constant. Oh no, not the Khufu constant. I think it is the Khufu constant actually. That equals 3.141946962. Then minus pi equals the exact number that we were just given earlier, which was how close the actual value is. Similarly, he examines the solfeggio tones fa 639 and ut 396 to obtain the same stunning result as follows. 639 divided by 396 is 1.613363636, which is the same as 852 divided by 528. Naturally, this music underlying the spinning fractal universe goes in cycles, he explains, reiterating the connection between 396 and 528 as follows. So 396 times 1.33333, that's 7 threes, equals 528, with the 1.3333 being the slope tangent of the side face on the second pyramid of Giza. A few other solfeggio notes do this as well, with 1.33333, Vic reported. For his grand finale, Scholl is victorious in showing humanity that sacred geometry is based on musical harmony, with the solfeggio frequencies expressing predominantly within Rodin's family number groups. Worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize in mathematics, Scholl presented his quantum space-time fractal harmonic codex, beginning with Love 528 and the associated 825 number in Rodin's 285 family set of numbers. Examples 1 and 2 below reveal the primordial association of these numbers to creation through an analysis of pyramid sacred geometry. In Scholl's latest contribution, Monograph 11, in his series posted on love528.com, under the Pi, Phi, and 528 page, he analyzes the origin of measuring time based on math that features 528 and 432. Scholl's focus on the important derivations of 528 and 432, shown in Table 5, was partially prompted by malicious propagandists, American agents attempting to discredit 528 to exclusively promote 432. Total absurdity given the proofs these numbers are integral to space-time measurements. Apparently, there are persons being exposed representing forces of evil who are threatened by pure Love 528 in the accelerating 528 love revolution. This kind of goes over a couple more of these. This is Table 5. So this is Analysis of 528 and 432 as important cofactors in ancient calendars and measurements. And it's really funny how we're starting to dive back into 432. We get into that next chapter as well. And these are examples that were expressed previously in the last pyramid. So now we get into a conclusion. If everybody's still with me, shout out again to everybody that's here that listened through that. It's a whole lot of math stuff, but it's all beautifully proven. And please, I'd invite anybody who doesn't see validity in any of that to take out your calculator and do all of that. Please do that. So this is the conclusion. The above mathematical analyses provides proof of divine design far exceeding the math of men. It virtually proves postulate 1 that all electrons, as well as celestial spheres, are spinning musically, vibrating harmonically, determined by the 9 core creative frequencies comprising the perfect circle of sound. In addition, postulate 2 is proven by the aforementioned analyses. These 9 frequencies of sound determine pi, phi, and the Fibonacci series, and all sacred geometric forms, including the structure of water, the tetrahedron, cosmology, and the laws of physics. As above, so below. From this evidence, postulate 3 also appears to be significantly evidenced, virtually certain. All piezoelectricity, oxidative reductive reactions, and electromagnetism affecting chemical reactions, affecting chemical interreactions, rely on the harmonics or dissonance of a musical mathematical matrix fundamental to physics and chemistry, all determined by simply 9 perfect circle of sound frequencies. Now that you know this information, what do you think you can do with this knowledge? These monumental discoveries require distribution and assimilation by a world urgently requiring something wonderful to happen. Will you help to give peace a chance and change the dissonant vibrations in the hearts of madmen, making war instead of love? Start by simply playing and composing music in 528. Share this information with others. And here is all of the kind of references, but that's chapter 3. Shout out to everybody. We made it through chapter 3. Wow. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for sticking with me. Those of you who are here live, I appreciate you so much for your energy being here, for your support, and for your interest. Thank you so much. I was definitely nervous to dive into this chapter. I'm surprised it only took about an hour and 20 minutes. Wow, I thought it would take longer. But I'm going to kind of introduce for what's going on tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a very fun day, and I think I'm going to accompany it with a TikTok as well. But chapter 4 is called Musical Cult Control through A440 Hertz standard tuning. It goes really deep. Wow, does it go deep? Shout out to the 4 people listening on Spotify right now. So much gratitude for you. So much gratitude for everybody who's here. Thank you so much for putting up with me fumbling over my words and doing my best to describe these concepts, these mathematical concepts that are quantum in their essence. At least to me, they seem quantum. But I'm happy for this reading because I got some notes that I want to ask Dr. Horowitz to go a little bit more in depth on. I don't know exactly how much further he can go in depth as this is Victor Schola's work, but I'm very excited to continue and very, very excited to be past chapter 3 and now into chapter 4 because it gets really good now. Not saying that wasn't good or the first 3 chapters or introduction or preface aren't good. But now that we're through chapter 3, mathematically proving that this has validity in so many other ways, now we can really start anchoring in these concepts of what 528 is and use the math to continue to speak its truth. That's kind of all I got for today. Thank you all so much again for being with me. Shout out to everybody on TikTok who's been here for both streams. Shout out to everybody here on YouTube who is here for both streams as well. Mariah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Melrose, if you're still here, thank you. Lace, I appreciate you as well. Tanya, shout out to you. Thank you for coming in here. I'm very appreciative. Mystical, thank you. Just so much gratitude. Unconditional gratitude for everybody. Yes, that is it for today. That is it for part 3. We will pick back up with part 4 tomorrow, which most likely will be another 2 chapters. This will be chapter 4 and chapter 5. And I'm trying to kind of hurry us through these chapters so we can get to this interview as quickly as possible, preferably before the 21st. So that is it. I will see you all tomorrow. I'm planning on doing a 1 o'clock stream again. I think that gives me a little bit of prep time to kind of go over what I'm going to be teaching that day and reading. Also allow me to meditate and get over my anxiety. So planning on 1 o'clock again tomorrow. I will be updating on Instagram. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram should be The Animal Kingdom, or just Animal. If you type that in, you should be able to find it. On TikTok, looks just like this. But I'll also be streaming on TikTok as well, and I will be putting up kind of like a live stream premiere thing. So if you follow me on YouTube, if you don't have the bell clicked right next to the subscribe button, if you click that bell, I'm pretty sure you'll be notified when I put up the premiere for when this is going to happen, and I'll do my best to have that an hour before I go live at 1, so you'll get notified of that. I think you can do the same thing on Instagram as well. I don't think you can on TikTok, but unconditional gratitude for every single one of you. Thank you so much for being here in the past, or if you're here right now, or not in the past, in the present, or if you're here in the future. Thank you so much, and I love every single one of you. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. Shout out.